başarılar diliyorum.
On March 4th, 2009, a murder took place that would never be forgotten, even after many years. In Istanbul's Etler district, a young paper collector was rummaging through garbage containers on Nispetiye Avenue, Dilek Yıldız Street, late at night. In one of the containers he was searching, he came across a guitar case. He tried to pull the guitar case out of the container, but it was too heavy, so he decided to open it inside the bin instead. The moment he unzipped the case, a horrifying scene began to unfold. Inside was the dismembered body of a young woman. The paper collector was petrified, frozen in shock at the gruesome sight before him. The residents in the area immediately called the police after receiving information from the paper collector. When officers arrived at the scene, they launched an investigation into the incident. The lifeless body was dressed in a shirt and a pair of jeans, but there were no clues that could help identify the victim. While the crime scene investigation teams were examining the other trash containers in the area where the body was found, they discovered an ID card and a public transportation pass revealing the victim's identity. The body belonged to 18-year-old Münevver Karabulut. Munevver's head had been severed and placed in a separate bag, which was also dumped into the same trash container. To preserve the evidence, forensic experts had the containers removed from the scene with the help of a crane. Munevver was born on March the 7th, 1991, in Istanbul. Her father, Süreyya, was a chef, and her mother, Nagahan, was a homemaker. Munevver was the family's first child and had one younger brother. She was a senior student at Beşiktaş Bangüyordum High School. She was preparing for the university entrance exams and attending a preparatory course during this period. It was there that she met her boyfriend, Cem Garipoğlu, who was also preparing for the exams. About a year after they met, Munevver and Cem started a relationship and began spending a lot of time together. According to her friends, Munevver loved Cem deeply and even wanted to introduce him to her family. Cem Garipoğlu, born in 1991, was the well-known son of one of Turkey's prominent and wealthy families. His father, Nida Garipoğlu, was a businessman. The family was financially well off and socially respected. However, beneath Cem's privileged exterior, there were bursts of anger, fits of jealousy, and psychological turmoil. The relationship that began shortly after he met Munevver soon became filled with heated arguments. According to her friends, Cem's jealousy and controlling behavior often left Munevver feeling suffocated. While the Karabulut family was devastated by the news of their daughter's death, her boyfriend Cem Garipoğlu could not be reached. Expert teams reviewing nearby surveillance footage discovered two suspicious individuals carrying a bag, getting out of a gray vehicle, and heading toward a garbage container. The footage showed that the two initially tried to dump the bag into a container in front of a residential complex, but then, fearing they might be seen, decided to leave it in another container instead. Based on the images, investigators estimated that one of the suspects was around 18 to 20 years old, while the other appeared to be about 40 to 45. After evaluating the gathered evidence, the police decided to raid the house where Cem, known to be the last person seen with Munevver, considered a suspect and still unreachable, lived with his family. As the police teams headed toward Başakşehir, Istanbul, to carry out the raid, it was discovered that just minutes before reaching the Garipoğlu residence, a gray vehicle had passed by them. It was later determined that this vehicle had departed from the Garipoğlu family's home and that Cem Garipoğlu was inside it. Upon arriving at the villa where the Garipoğlu family lived, forensic experts immediately began their investigation. They noticed that the villa had been thoroughly cleaned, yet despite all the efforts, traces of blood were still found in certain areas. Tests conducted on samples collected from the scene confirmed that the blood belonged to Münevver Karabulut. Further examination of the house revealed blood-stained clothing belonging to the young girl and a blood-covered saw. Following the discovery of this evidence, a total of 17 people, including Cem's father, Nida Garipoğlu, and mother Münevver Karabulut, were taken into custody. However, Cem himself was still nowhere to be found. According to the report prepared by the Forensic Medicine Institute, pieces of skin were found under Munevver's fingernails, an indication that she resisted a sexual assault and that the attacker or attackers responded with increased violence. A total of 29 cut wounds were identified on her body, 13 of which were located on her head. No traces of alcohol or drugs were detected in her blood or stomach. The report, prepared by the Istanbul Forensic Medicine Institute and sent to the public prosecutor's office leading the investigation, stated that Munevver received a fatal blow near her left collarbone before her throat was slit. It also noted that saliva from multiple men was detected in swab samples taken from her mouth, neck, and chest, and emphasized that these samples should be compared with DNA collected from the suspects. One of the most striking findings in the report was the presence of 4 equal, parallel cuts measuring 20 to 22 centimeters in length on Munevver's abdomen. It was concluded that in order to make such precise incisions, the young girl must have been immobilized. Either her hands were tied or she was being held down by someone. This was because it would be extremely difficult to make such clean cuts on the abdomen of a person lying on their back. This finding strengthened the possibility of torture. Additionally, sperm samples were found on the young girl's underwear, and the report noted that the detected Y chromosome characteristics matched those typically found among males of the same lineage. This raised suspicions that more than one person could be involved, and possibly even individuals from the same family. Although not certain, the presence of soil residues on the body suggested that she might have been placed on the ground during the killing. While the initial examinations indicated that a knife and a saw were used, the numerous cut marks also suggested that other knives of similar type may have been involved. According to the forensic report, Munevver was not pregnant and was a virgin. The manner in which the murder was committed showed that this was not a simple case of jealousy or a crime of passion, but rather one that might have been driven by a sense of honor or shame. This was a brutal and sadistic murder. As a result of long-term investigations, the inability to locate Cem Garipoğlu raised suspicions that, due to his dual citizenship, he might have fled abroad. While the investigation continued, the young girl's body was laid to rest in Mengen, Bolu, but there was still no trace of Cem. This triggered different reactions across the country, and new possibilities were being put forward. Claims were emerging that Cem had fled to France, Russia, or even China. Over the course of the investigation, it was officially documented by police officers of that time that the security cameras around the Garipoglu family's house were not working and no footage was available. However, the truth later surfaced thanks to the efforts of the Karabulut family's lawyers. Although the police claimed they could not access the street's camera recordings, the Karabulut family's lawyer repeatedly visited the area with a technical expert, recovered the surrounding footage, and restored deleted images. More than a month after the incident, the retrieved security footage revealed that there had been only a 4-minute gap between the police arriving at the house and Cem leaving. In other words, the police had missed Cem by just 4 minutes. According to allegations, Cem's father had returned to the house to pick up money, but upon seeing the police at the door, decided not to go inside, an indication that he was aware of what had happened. Security footage showed that Nida Garipoğlu left the house at 10 a.m., carrying a suitcase, got into his car, and drove away. 5 minutes later, Cem's mother, Makbule, and his sisters left the house. At 12:28 p.m., Cem left to buy a saw and returned 10 minutes later with it in a white plastic bag. After dropping the saw off at home, he left again at 1:08 p.m. to pick up Münevver Karabulut. At 3:20 p.m., Cem brought Munevver to the residential site. To avoid being caught on security cameras, the young couple tried to enter through the backyard of the villa. A security guard, suspicious of a potential break-in, approached them but turned back after recognizing Cem. Since the back door could not be opened from outside, Cem entered through the front, unlocked the back door for Munevver, and let her into the house from the rear entrance. The brutal murder in which Munevver lost her life took place between 3:22 p.m. and 7:04 p.m. In the footage, at 7:04 p.m., Cem Garipoğlu is seen leaving the house carrying a guitar case and a suitcase containing the body. At 7:15 p.m., Cem's younger sibling's English teacher enters the villa with her own car, and at 7:20 p.m., Cem's mother, Makbule Garipoğlu, returns home. At 9:09 p.m., the English teacher leaves the villa. In her statement, the teacher said she did not notice anything suspicious inside the house. Cem returned home at 9:45 p.m. after dumping the body in a garbage container. His mother later stated that she thought some of the blood stains she saw in the house were wine stains and scolded her son, then called his father to talk to him. Cem's father, Nida Garipoğlu, arrived at the house at 11:01 p.m. and 43 minutes later, he and Cem left together. Only 4 minutes after their departure, police arrived at the house. A short while later, the father dropped Cem off at a cafe in Bahçeşehir and returned home. But upon seeing police cars at 11:57 p.m., he left without going inside. The autopsy revealed that the skin samples found under Munevver's fingernails matched Cem's father, Nida Garipoğlu. Nida was arrested and sent to prison on April 27, 2009, but was later released pending trial. As the investigation continued, new scandals emerged. Sperm residue was found on Munevver's body, but the Forensic Institute later announced that it came from cross-contamination with another body autopsied the same day. This shocking revelation caused national outrage. An investigation was launched against the responsible staff member, and sensational claims around the case grew even louder. Public trust in the authorities eroded further with each day Cem remained at large. Statements made by the then Istanbul police chief regarding Münevver Karabulut and her family drew widespread public backlash. The police chief stated, "This case isn't unsolved, you're mistaken. The suspect responsible for the murder is known, and Istanbul police successfully identified him. Yes, he still needs to be caught, but this is not the only murder committed in Istanbul." After facing strong public reaction, the Istanbul police chief was reassigned to another city. The position was then given to Hüseyin Çapkın, who upon taking office declared, "We will solve the Münevver Karabulut murder." 3 months after Cem Garipoğlu disappeared, Interpol issued a red notice in 6 languages, bringing the case to international attention. Public outrage grew over Cem's continued evasion of capture, and both social media campaigns and street protests demanded justice for Munevver. During the investigation, it was discovered that before the murder, Munevver had been chatting with Cem via a popular chat application of the time. In those messages, Cem had written,
"I have amazing plans for you, one of the biggest ever. Your jaw will drop when you hear them. Do you know what I'll do to you? Things you can't even imagine. I have amazing plans. I learned to play guitar for you. First I'll hug you, then I'll start squeezing more and more until I choke you to death."
More than 6 months after the murder, the Istanbul provincial police chief, Hüseyin Çapkın, announced that the investigation was nearing its end and that Cem Garipoğlu would soon be brought to justice, either by turning himself in or by being captured. Not long after this statement, on September 17, 2009, at 12:45 a.m., just hours before his 18th birthday, Cem Garipoğlu surrendered to the police in Bahçelievler, Istanbul, through the family's lawyers, exactly 197 days after the brutal murder. Later assessments suggested that Çapkın's remarks were intended to pressure the Garipoğlu family and push Cem to surrender voluntarily, believing he would inevitably be caught. Cem Garipoğlu was brought before a night court and, since he was still under 18, was charged with murder with monstrous intent against a minor and sent to Maltepe Juvenile Prison. In his first statement, he expressed remorse, claimed he had not left the country, and said he had been hiding in a house with a garden 3 hours from Istanbul. However, he answered many questions with, "I don't know," or "I don't remember," and it was observed that he attempted to claim provocation by stating that Munevver had insulted him. During the trial at the Second High Juvenile Court of Bakırköy, he repeated the same statements, "I don't remember," and "I don't know," and reiterated the claims he had made during the night hearing. The trial for murder with monstrous intent was held under tight security. The Karabulut family also attended the hearings. At one point, Munevver's brother Enver somehow managed to smuggle a syringe filled with bleach into the courtroom and attempted to inject it into Cem. When he failed, he tried to spray it on him. The Karabulut family's lawyer argued in court that this murder could not have been committed by Cem alone. It was stated that DNA traces belonging to Nida Garipoğlu were found on the victim's body during the autopsy conducted shortly after the murder, and that this should be taken into consideration when reaching a verdict. It was even claimed that Münevver Karabulut should also be prosecuted for attempting to destroy evidence of the crime. In the end, Cem Garipoğlu was sentenced to 24 years in prison. His mother, Münevver Karabulut, and uncle Hayam Garipoğlu were each sentenced to 3 years, while his father, Nida Garipoğlu, was acquitted. After this decision, the Karabulut family won the civil lawsuit for damages against the Garipoğlu family. On October 8, 2013, the court ruled that the Garipoğlu family must pay 37,000 Turkish lira in material damages and 1,250,000 Turkish lira in moral damages. Exactly 1 year later, on October 10, 2014, Cem Garipoğlu's name made headlines again. News channels reported that he had committed suicide in his prison cell. This news reignited public suspicion surrounding the fact that he had been captured so long after the crime. Allegations emerged that Cem Garipoğlu had not actually died but had been smuggled abroad. The Karabulut family, after everything they had endured, found it difficult to believe the claims. They requested that surveillance footage be reviewed and that the grave be exhumed to match DNA samples with the Garipoğlu family. Their request, however, was denied on the grounds that a forensic examination had already been conducted immediately after the reported death. Information from prison interactions and cellmates later revealed striking details. Rumors suggested that Cem spent most of his time learning Chinese. In an interview, he said that he expected to be released at around age 34 in 2025, and that he planned to study international law. He also mentioned that he had previously lived in China. During one visiting day, Cem reportedly had a heated argument with his family. He told them, "Either you get me out of here, or I'll find a way to get out myself," to which the family allegedly responded that it was impossible. On July 11, 2021, social media posts from Cem's sister, Sakin Garipoğlu, sparked outrage. One photo showed members of the Garipoğlu family smiling on the same couch that had been stained with Munevver's blood during the murder. Careful examination revealed that the household items in the crime scene had been preserved and were still in use years later. Another post featured a sculpture by Italian artist Valeriano Trubiani, titled Edi di Marzo 1, 1970. A further post involved an online gaming platform, Mangas, where some usernames resembled those of Garipoğlu family members. These posts were quickly deleted after public backlash. The incident reignited claims previously raised by the Karabulut family's lawyer that the Garipoğlu family belonged to a certain religious sect and that the crime had ritualistic elements. Though these allegations were unproven, they triggered new debates in the public sphere. Examining the timeline of events, some pointed to the significance of certain dates and rituals. Cem surrendered on a September 17, which coincided with specific dates in the sex calendar. Some belief systems involve ceremonies to annul unfulfilled vows or unleavened bread rituals around this time of year. More extreme allegations claim that when a male member of the group reached adulthood, he was expected to prove his initiation by sacrificing a young, virgin woman outside the community. Forensic reports confirmed that Munevver was a virgin, although an error in the examination later raised doubts about sperm residue on her underwear. That note remained in the case file. The report also stated that there were V-shaped saw cuts in the house and evidence that the victim was tortured while still alive. It was further alleged that the Garipoglu family had kept objects from the crime scene in their house for years, reinforcing the ritual theory. Historical records note similar acts of cruelty in both Ottoman and European contexts, though their existence alone cannot explain this particular case. Typically, a perpetrator would attempt to dispose of the body and the murder weapon. In this case, the opposite happened. Munevver's body was left in a garbage container in one of Istanbul's most crowded, elite neighborhoods, suggesting no attempt to hide it. Neither the weapon nor the clothing was destroyed. Why did Cem choose that specific container? Investigators noted that it was near his grandmother's home. Was this deliberate? Some traditions trace identity through the father, others through the mother, elements that were discussed in interpreting the case. If, as alleged, the crime had ritualistic elements, the defense's theory that Cem acted to prove his manhood within a community was debated. Surveillance footage confirmed Cem depositing the body, but inconsistencies remained about the presence or absence of an elderly woman near the container and the timing of the garbage collector's arrival. These gaps left many questions unanswered. Was the money allegedly found in the villa used as a bribe to help him escape? Was the nameless grave a security measure or an attempt to erase identity altogether? None of these questions have been definitively answered. The only undisputed fact is that many years ago, a young girl's life was brutally taken.